Hello, hello, hello. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. My name is LaKeesha Hines, and you're watching SOS, where I'm saving our sex lives one bedroom at a time. Please make sure you let me know who you are and where you are streaming from so that I can shout you out. Also, do not forget to put your questions in the chat. I will answer your questions live. You just have to drop them in the chat. Let me know who you are, where you're streaming from, and I'll shout you out. So, you know, I'm equal opportunity over here, right? And last week we had a conversation. Actually, the last 2 weeks we had a conversation about erectile dysfunction. Can cheating lead to erectile dysfunction? And so I'm equal opportunity. So because I put the fellas' business out there, I'm all about now, ladies, it's our turn. So I'm going to put our business out there in these streets. And we're talking about vaginal dryness. Can cheating cause vaginal dryness? And I think you probably already know the answer to this question based upon the conversation we had the last 2 weeks. And absolutely, unequivocally, yes, cheating can cause vaginal dryness. And I will walk us through how. I will walk us through how. But please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Please make sure you are telling your friends, family, colleagues, coworkers, neighbors, everybody you know about Couples Academy and the SOS show and all the other shows before I do and all the other wonderful shows that we have here for you. All right. So, uh, hi, Terry. Happy Tuesday to you as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. And the rest of you, again, let me know who you are and where you're streaming from. I love shouting you out, brings me joy to my life. So, this vaginal dryness situation, it can be caused by multiple things. Um, it's not just cheating, which is a psychological thing, it's an emotional thing, right? But there are also physical things that can cause vaginal dryness. Menopause, it's no secret that going through menopause can trigger a number of changes in a woman's body. So that is one of the big ones, hormonal changes, right? And then also irritants, it's probably the most sensitive area on a woman's body, right? So some feminine hygiene products like soaps and perfumes that can cause vaginal dryness for sure. Certain medications that we take can cause vaginal dryness, but what we're talking about today are the psychological and emotional factors that can lead to vaginal dryness. Stress and anxiety can 100% interfere with a woman's sexual desire. And it also can affect blood flow to the vagina. And so when we don't have sufficient blood flow, that directly can lead to vaginal dryness. And it's similar with the man, right? What causes the erection is that blood flow, and so for women, we have all of these nerves and all of these wonderful things around the vagina that actually needs blood as well, like in order to be enlarged, specifically the clitoris and the labia minor and major. So we need blood flow to that area. And when we don't have that sufficient blood flow, again, that can lead to vaginal dryness. But the good news is vaginal dryness can be treated relatively simply. It's really about getting the right lubrication that works for you. I've talked about water-based versus synthetic type, so that's something that can actually be used. And so it's not at the end of the day as complicated as what erectile dysfunction can be, because again there is lubricants, all different types of lubricants that can assist. But if it is something that is psychological and or emotional, lubrication will handle the physical side of it, right? But it will not handle the psychological piece or the emotional piece. And so we have to get to the root of what is causing said emotional or psychological issues. One of those biggest things would be unresolved issues with your man. Unresolved issues, okay? That's where we're going to spend the majority of our time focusing. But I want to kind of give you a comprehensive all around what can contribute. One of the top things that can contribute to vaginal dryness is lack of foreplay. We're not spending enough time warming up the engine. Those of you who live in these cold states, that is not my testimony. I am in Florida. But those of you who live in these cold states, uh, you know that when you go out in the morning after it has been snowing all night, one, you got to get rid of all of that doggone snow, right? And then the next thing is you have got to start that car so you can warm up the engine. So that you can warm up the engine. And guess what? Ladies are no different. We need you to spend time warming up the engine. So that's foreplay. And foreplay shouldn't start right before you want to have sex. Foreplay should be throughout your day. That is the best, where there's flirting, there's text messages, there's conversation. And if you are both working from home, there's touch throughout the day, but that we are spending time warming up that engine. All right. Arousal and stress being factors that contribute to vaginal dryness, we want to make sure that the woman is properly aroused, adequately aroused before we engage in intercourse, and that we're working to reduce stress. So you got to get to the root of what the stress is. Sometimes it's performance anxiety, sometimes it's stress from bills or stress from kids or stress from work or whatever the case may be. So we have to deal with whatever is stressing her out. Because guess what? Women have a tendency to zone out in the middle of sex. We do. We have a tendency to zone out. We're thinking about the grocery list. We're thinking about all the things that we need to do because we've got all these 50,000 checklists in our heads. And women, I need you to chime in, make sure that you confirm or correct what I'm saying. But we always have all this stuff in our mind, right? And it's so easy to zone out. So we have to make sure that we're spending time ensuring that she is properly aroused so that she can stay connected and stay in the moment, and that we're reducing stress as much as humanly possible. And so, if it is something physiological that's going on, you definitely want to get to your doctor as soon as possible. They might prescribe a vaginal estrogen with a cream, suppositories, tablets, or even a ring. And there's also some natural ways to reset your personal ecosystem. So, water, 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 hydrate, 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 drink up. You might want to try doubling your daily intake to begin. And you can also add healthy fats to your diet. Add healthy fats to your diet. And flaxseed oil, you can apply olive oil topically. So there's all different types of things you could do, including vitamin E oil. There's a chastaberry tea. There's a black cohosh and soy. But vitamin E is also, that oil is also a good one. So those are some physical things. But emotionally, as I said, reducing the stress, increasing your foreplay, making sure that she is adequately aroused before you engage in intercourse. Those are some kind of quick and easy things that you can do. The one that takes a little bit more time would be dealing with unresolved issues. And one of the main unresolved issues is infidelity. And I know that our audience primarily deals with infidelity, but that doesn't have to be the only unresolved issue that you have in your relationship. So, we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about these unresolved issues as it pertains to infidelity and others. All right. So do not go anywhere. Do not swipe left or right. We'll be right back. You're watching the SOS Show. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're watching SOS. My name is LaKeesha Hines, and today we're talking about whether or not cheating can cause vaginal dryness. I've already spilled the beans. I've already told you absolutely, unequivocally, yes, it can. Cheating can cause vaginal dryness because of the psychological and emotional component to that. I love that. I don't know who Facebook user is, but hey, Facebook user said an antihistamine will cause vaginal dryness as well. Yeah, so we were talking about some physiological things, physical things that can cause vaginal dryness, but I just want it to be all encompassing. But let's get back to the conversation that we're having about the psychological and the emotional components. Here's the thing. I say this all the time. For men, when it pertains to arousal, men are visual creatures, okay? They are visual creatures. And so, literally, a man can see his woman just walk by naked or walk by with a pair of pants that he really likes or shorts or in his t-shirt or whatever visual image he gets, and he's aroused and he's stimulated. But for women, it takes a little bit more than that. We want to be connected with you, and we want to be stimulated mentally and emotionally in our heart space, and then the vagina gets involved many times. And so, if there is a disconnect mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually, then that will cause vaginal dryness, right? So, it's one of those things where we really have to spend time. We have to spend time connecting with each other in all of these other ways. And it takes time. It takes time. And so after there has been infidelity, it will take time to get your groove back in the bedroom. It's and then if you're not fully stimulated, you're not aroused, you don't have that natural lubrication down there, then sex becomes painful. So if you continue to do that over time, then it also can be a mental block because you're anticipating the pain. And that can cause a completely different issue in terms of vaginal dryness, right? Because you're so focused on the pain that is going to come that you can't relax in the moment and allow yourself to become stimulated, to be pleasured, to be pleased because you're so focused on the pain that you're anticipating coming. So that's why you want to make sure that before you actually engage in intercourse, that there is the right amount of arousal and stimulation and lubrication so that you don't experience that pain. And then again, like I said, now you're focused on that and not pleasure. And so when you are experiencing infidelity in your relationship, it's extremely important that you get support, that you get help to deal with the infidelity. When we're working with couples, oftentimes they will come in and they want to jump right to how do we get things back right in the bedroom? How do we get it hot and heavy back in the bedroom? But they haven't dealt with the infidelity. And so let's just say, for the sake of conversation, because we're talking about vaginal dryness, right? So let's just say that it is the man who has been unfaithful many times. If the infidelity has not been dealt with at all or hasn't been properly dealt with, that ultimately the woman is dealing with triggers on a daily basis, multiple times throughout the day. She may be triggered while in the midst of having sex. Could be during foreplay. It could be when he's trying to send a signal that, hey, I want you tonight. She could get triggered just by that. And if she continues to move forward with intercourse and not being mentally, emotionally ready for that, that can lead to bitterness, resentment, and anger and frustration, and can be so psychologically and emotionally damaging and devastating to the point where it becomes virtually impossible to enjoy sex. If you are being triggered, but you continue to engage in intercourse without properly managing those triggers, You are going to create a lasting effect, impact. You are rewiring your brain to accept engaging in intercourse, whether you're connected or not, which creates a space for you to constantly be emotionally and mentally disconnected, where it's almost like you begin to have an outer body experience. And when you are engaging in intercourse with your partner, you need to be there 100%, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, so that it can be a pleasurable experience for both of you. Y'all quiet today. You're real, real quiet today. I don't know. You normally say a little bit more to me, but you're real quiet. So, what do you have to do? Get quiet with yourself to figure out why you're choosing to move ahead with re engaging in intercourse and you haven't dealt with the infidelity. What kind of love do you feel you deserve? You deserve to be in a relationship that is loving and that is caring and compassionate and kind and fulfilling and pleasurable and is trustworthy and all of those things and many, many others. And so, are you re engaging out of fear? Fear that my spouse will cheat again, fear that they're going to leave me, fear that they will see me as inadequate, fear that what I'm doing isn't enough, fear that they're going to have an attitude, fear that they're going to reject me, fear that they're going to talk bad about me to their boys. What's the reason? It has to be because you're coming from a healed place, a loving place, that I'm engaging in intercourse with you or sex with you because I want to, because I'm ready, because I love you and I desire to please you, not because of fear. That's never a good reason to be intimate. And I can tell you at one point, this was my truth because of my own insecurities. And so we have to learn how to deal with our individual issues and our collective issues so that we are having the best sex we can possibly have in our lives. But that can only happen if we deal with these unresolved issues. And infidelity is a big one. You can't just allow time to pass and think that that will heal it. No, you have to get help and you need help from infidelity recovery specialists. So make that discovery call today. Let us help you. Let us get you back on track. Let us help facilitate your journey toward healing and transformation. That's what we're here for. Now, let's just say, again, because I want to be all encompassing, that there is no infidelity, but you are still dealing with vaginal dryness due to unresolved issues. Unresolved issues. We have to face them. We can't ignore them. You know, there are certain personality types um, that it's natural for them to avoid, right? It's uncomfortable for them to face issues head on. And they shy away from it because they don't want to argue, they don't want to fight, they don't want to hurt your feelings. But it's critical to the success of your relationship overall and especially your sexual relationship. So, what do you do? Well, the first thing is you have to accept the fact that no relationship is perfect. There is no such thing as the fairy tale. Okay. Um, and honestly, if you really stop and think about it, do you really want everything to be perfect? You know, have you really sat down and thought about what perfection would be like and the amount of effort it would take to maintain perfection? So what we have to do is recognize that we're imperfect people in a partnership that are going to make mistakes and some bad decisions, but that just means you have to talk about things, you have to acknowledge your responsibility, own your responsibility, work through it, and gain a life lesson. And I know that's easier said than done as it pertains to infidelity because you're like, What do you mean work through it and gain a life lesson? And I'm not minimizing. But at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? You talk about it. You acknowledge your own individual responsibilities and you work through it through an infidelity recovery process. And you walk away with a life lesson about how to do marriage right, because that's what we teach you here at Couples Academy. Communication is everything. Communication is everything. How we talk to each other when a woman is experiencing vaginal dryness, not making her feel worse about it than she already does, being sensitive to what she is going through and what she's experiencing, helping her to work through the root of that and the cause of that. But we know communication is among the most important components when you want to work towards a strong connection, establish a deep bond, and have great sex. Because you have to talk about sex also. And we have to talk about relationship problems in a calm, respectful manner with a mindset of coming to the point of compromise when you can. And then also just trying to resolve your conflict so that it's not something that builds and brews over time, which ultimately will lead to bitterness and resentment, which can lead to a lack of arousal and vaginal dryness. So we have to communicate. Another layer of that communication is this is how, as women, we feel connected to you when you talk to us and you're telling us what you're thinking and feeling and what you're going through. We feel an emotional connection. Mentally, we feel connected, and that ultimately gives us the warm and fuzzies on our insides, gives us desire to want to be closer to you, which ultimately will lead to us wanting to engage in sex with you. And it will be stimulating and arousing when we feel safe with you. So that's another layer of this vaginal dryness. If I don't feel safe with you, I am guarded and I am protecting myself and I'm not relaxed and allowing myself to receive pleasure that is needed to become aroused, to become stimulated, which ultimately will lead to vaginal lubrication. Physical touch. Physical touch. That is a component that is highly, highly, highly needed and recommended. Holding hands is so beneficial when you're talking through conflicts, because what we're talking about is vaginal dryness can be caused by infidelity, but really it's unresolved issues, right? And so when we're talking through these conflicts, holding hands, physical touch allows each person to feel emotions instead of just hearing the words. And so we have to create this intimate connection by creating an atmosphere of empathy, because we want to have the most sincere and the most heartfelt communication, conversation, and connection as humanly possible. When conflicts do arouse, oftentimes a sincere apology can fix it all. Acknowledging and owning your part and apologizing, man, that goes such a long way. Such a long way. And so when we have these unresolved conflicts in our relationships, that oftentimes will lead to hurtful arguments where a lot of times there are mean spirited comments that are made to the other person, which will warrant an apology. And it can't just be a sorry, my bad. It can't be that. It has to be genuine, heartfelt, and sincere when you are apologizing if you want your partner to receive what it is that you are saying. And you apologizing, it doesn't have to mean that you're admitting fault, especially if you weren't wrong, but if the other person felt something, hurt, pain, offense, whatever the case may be, then literally just you can have sorrow for hurting your partner with your words. And apologies are something that the other person needs to feel that you care. Okay? So really, the apology many times is not even about you. It's about what the other person needs to feel as if they have been heard and that their feelings were validated and that you care. Okay? Um Divorce should be off the table. Unresolved issues can lead to a person wanting to tap out and quit, and then they may threaten divorce. because they feel as if they don't have any other way out. But unresolved issues, they don't have to lead you down the path to divorce. That's something that should be completely taken off the table. Because again, if you are with someone who's dealing with some feelings of abandonment, every time you threaten divorce, you trigger that in them, which oftentimes stems from childhood. So now we've got this unresolved issue, and yet you're wanting me to open myself up to you for intercourse and expect me to be aroused and stimulated when I'm feeling at any given moment you could just pack up and leave me, especially after infidelity, where, if it's the husband who cheated, like the wife is already feeling like you mentally and emotionally left me when you cheated. And so now, if you get so overwhelmed and frustrated and stressed out that, divorce is threatened, this is just another form of abandonment. And threatens my ability to trust you, threatens my ability to be vulnerable with you because I don't feel safe with you. Therefore, I can't open up and connect with you. I'm not aroused, I'm not stimulated. Vaginal dryness. I hope this is resonating and this makes sense to you all because again, our mind and our heart, they definitely have influences over us physically. And if we do not deal with our psychological issues and our emotional issues, they will have a physiological manifestation. All right, so some other tips: avoid vices for temporary comfort. When there are unresolved issues, it's stressful. And many times what happens is, will lead that will lead to finding other methods to cope, especially if you've never been taught proper coping strategies and you haven't been taught a healthy way to deal with stress and conflict. And so we naturally look for comfort when we're stressed out, and a lot of times we'll head to these vices, be it alcohol, tobacco, food. Sometimes it's connection with others. And so, these are just temporary solutions that can actually render permanent damage. So you want to avoid turning outward and turn inward to each other and deal with the issues instead of seeking comfort outside of your relationship. We definitely want to make sure that you don't speak poorly of your partner to your friends or your family. Like, we don't want to do that because it's disrespectful. And should your spouse find out about that, that's going to hurt them. And so you want to avoid that because, you're probably going to get judgment anyway. That's only going to add fuel to the fire. And so it's okay to be upset with your spouse, but it's not okay for others to say negative things about them. And, when you do get into conflict and you have these unresolved issues, are they deal breakers? You know, uh, are these things that, you just simply cannot live with? And if that is the case, then maybe it is time for you all to go your separate ways. But if it's not a deal breaker, we're going to do our best job, do our due diligence to try to resolve those issues and conflicts as much as humanly possible. And we just want to get to a place where we stop sweeping unresolved issues in a relationship under the carpet. We have to stop doing that. As the issues come up, we have to work on them right then and there instead of pushing them to the side, hoping for a better time, hoping that they'll resolve on their own. No, you have got to deal with them, face them head on, handle the problems as they come forward. And you don't end the session until there's a solution. You may have to table it for a later time because it gets too heated, but you come back to it and you get resolution so that you don't have these unresolved issues accumulating into a ball of problems that you ultimately don't know how to handle. So one at a time is much easier than like I said, this ball of problems and issues that you're trying to resolve all at one time. And of course, reach out for help. Reach out for help. This is what we're here for. And as I said, make that discovery call. If you are struggling with how to manage unresolved issues, if you're struggling with trying to heal from infidelity, this is what we're here for. And we are here to help you for that. Oh my goodness, I didn't see this question. Don Juan says, what about the man who got cheated on? Do you feel the dryness is towards the husband and the Pleasure wetness remains for the guy the woman cheated with. You know what, Don Juan? That is a great question, and that is possible. That is possible. And I did talk about men and how being cheated on can affect erectile dysfunction. We talked about that. It was either last week or the week before. It was a two parts. You can go back and listen to that. But that's possible. Many times when women cheat, obviously there is a disconnection that she has had from her partner, and she's reconnected with someone else, and many times it is emotionally. And so again, for women, it's mental, it's emotional, and then physical, right? So, yeah, if she's disconnected and her mind is elsewhere and her heart is elsewhere, then absolutely that can affect um her ability to become stimulated and aroused when she's with her partner. Now, that's not always the case. So, um I don't want for you all to assume that because this is happening that she's been unfaithful. But to your point, yes, that is a possibility. That is a possibility. And however it goes, no matter who the unfaithful partner is, you still need support, both of you, and reach out and make that call. Last thing I want to share with you all before we go, the Phoenix Awards Gala is coming up October the 7th. Make sure you have your face in the place. Scan the QR code at the bottom so that you can get your tickets today. Let them know you heard about it on SOS so you can be at my table and get to meet my husband, my boo thing, my boyfriend, my baby daddy. All right. So October 7th in Alpharetta, Georgia, we need you in the building. Scan this QR code, get your tickets today. Let them know you heard about it on SOS. All right. So you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Please remember, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you same time, same place next week. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.